Greetings and salutations, friends. My name is, of course, Charles Q. Banks, and I'd like to welcome you to my series of discussion videos in black and white. If you have a discussion topic that you would like for me to discuss off the top of my head, this is all winged, then please leave that topic in the comments below, and I'll try to get to that later. So today I am talking about a little something in the gaming community called elitism, and it's being thrown around willy-nilly constantly on the internet, on YouTube, especially in gaming articles, all the time. And this is particularly over the newest game, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, which I've already talked about a little bit in terms of gaming difficulty and the recent controversy over its difficulty and whether or not the game respects and disrespects its players based on whether or not it has an easy mode, which I don't think anyone needs to put an easy mode into their game. Maybe they need to put accessibility for disabled people, but that has nothing to do with whether or not the game has an easy, medium, or hard. If people want to put easy, medium, and hard into their games, then go for it. Just as long as it doesn't compromise the quality and vision that the game makers originally had. Okay? So with Dark Souls, those games were perfect without any difficulty sliders or anything like that, right? Same thing with Sekiro. It is made specifically catering to a specific group of people who want the game to be difficult and for it to be satisfying in a very Twitch reaction, hardcore way. And it's okay if you are hardcore, it's okay if you are casual. The problem is people on one side calling people on the other side elitist when the game doesn't cater to their needs or wants. And the other side responding to them, saying, your game is too hard, you guys are elitists, want everyone to be like you, and you can't be different because you expect us to get through your difficult game. And then the other side says, well, you guys are elitists, the true elitists, because you think all games need to be super easy and super accessible for casuals. And they're both wrong. You are all wrong, everyone is wrong. That's a joke, but there's a lot of error going on, a lot of mistaken identity, even one might say. I, the ultimate fashion elitist, have a lot to say when it comes to elitism. I'm not really an elitist in any way, I just think that classic, traditional morals and respect and responsibility and modes of clothing and dress, specifically from the Edwardian and Victorian eras, are way more respectful and way more cool than the culture of rebellion and outrage that we have today. So, let's get into it, shall we? So, I'm replying specifically to both that disrespect article about Sekiro and to a bunch of videos talking about Sekiro. A recent one I watched was Sekiro Has Some Problems, I think, is what it was called. Another one is literally called The Casuals, the True Elitists. And I didn't watch that video. I'm sure it's a good video. It's by a pretty popular YouTuber. But just the title has a big YouTube channel has a big impact on the front page of YouTube or on the actual perspective of people watching these YouTube videos, or even just seeing that someone wrote that and it's like, hey, I agree with that, or hey, I disagree with that, and there's no context given in the title. You have to watch the video, so it's kind of clickbaity. So I understand that. You want people to watch the stinking video. But I can understand the thought pattern. And I've had people talk about elitism from both sides. I've heard this. And part of it was in that original article, where they were saying that there's an elitist bunch of people that loved Dark Souls, that loved From Software, and From Software wants people to specifically become competitive, hyper-competitive, and elitist in the way that they approach games. They were saying that it's wrong for games to be super challenging because then it makes sure that only a few people will play it, and that those people playing it become elitists, so that's bad. Which is a knee-jerk reaction, which doesn't actually show the whole picture, which is, it's a game, and games are meant for enjoyment, and if you don't enjoy the game, you don't play it. It's kind of like the morality filter problem with the ESRB. Like, if you don't like nudity, don't play God of War. If you don't like violence, don't play T for Teen, anything higher than E for Everyone games. If you don't like blood, don't play Bloodborne. You don't have to play these games, and if there's an inherent worldview from which FromSoft is basing their games. It's based on the idea that when you become an adult, when you become mature, when you live life and you experience pain, there is a truth to experiencing pain and being frustrated but winning through it and pressing through it, going hard, and coming out the other side okay. You come out changed, but you are the victor nonetheless. And the pain itself is even part of the learning process. If that does not resonate with you in an entertainment level, or even on a life level, you may not enjoy those games. You may enjoy them because of the combat, but that perspective, that worldview, is baked into the games. So anyway, getting back to the point, the other side of the issue is people responding to this kind of casualist mindset, saying that all games should be made with easy, medium, and hard, that all games should be tailor-made so that anyone can play them, anyone from any walk of life can enjoy it and not feel offended, and so on and so forth. People are offended at stinking Crash Bandicoot, for heaven's sake. Like, there's nothing you're going to make that won't offend someone somewhere, so just make your game however you want it, and let the dice fall where they may, right? That's where I stand on gaming design. I believe there are moral qualifications where, like, make sure that it's rated M for mature if it has nudity or blood or gore or anything like that, cussing, etc. And don't let your kids play anything that's mature. But on the other hand, if adults allow their children to play mature games and they buy them for them, who's to say that they're wrong in doing so? That's a moral debate. That's maybe a religious debate, even, and even a political one. But it's not one that has anything to do with the government. It doesn't have anything to do with, whether those parents are actually, like, you can say those parents aren't doing the right thing. But this is a free country. We cannot legislate that unless we were to become more of a 1984 society, one that tries to take people's thoughts, tries to take what people do in their private homes and make them illegal, and take them to jail because of it. And I'm not for that. So, when it comes down to it, elitism, throwing around this word elitism, it's like you're just trying to say that someone is being a jerk. Someone is being mean, someone's being an idiot, and my way of saying things is right. That's how it's being bandied about right now. And in the gaming industry, no one perspective or viewpoint has to be the only one, or the right one. And I think that's where gaming journalists are getting it all wrong. They need to look at gaming and say, okay, what is this for? Does it fill that niche? Does Sekiro fulfill all of the goals and the ends that it was meant to achieve when it was being created? If the answer is no, based on the original creator's vision, then the creator himself will be unhappy with it. If the answer is yes, then it's a great game, regardless of who can play it and who can't. regardless of whether it is easy for most or whether it's hard for most. And that's where the dividing line is that no one is really talking about. Hard games are for hardcore players. Easy games are for more casual players. That doesn't mean that casual players can't enjoy hardcore games and that hardcore gamers can't enjoy easy games. It's just there are certain niches that both of these kind of subgenres fill. And we need to let that happen. So it's inherently wrong. I'm making a judgment call here. It's inherently wrong to say that all casuals are elitists because these specific article writers and YouTubers are saying that Sekiro should be easier and be catered to my needs. Maybe they're saying something a little bit elitist, but the title to that video being "Casuals are the true elitists," that is a total misnomer, because you cannot make a general statement like that about casuals unless it's about the fact that they are casual, because then you'll be wrong for a certain percentage of the whole population of those who are considered or consider themselves to be casuals. Same thing with hardcore gamers. You can say all hardcore gamers are hyper-competitive jerks and elitists, and you'd be right for a certain percentage of the population of hardcore gamers, but you'd be completely wrong for the rest. And in my experience, most hardcore gamers, in other words, people who play Dark Souls and Sekiro and get into pro gaming, most of them aren't necessarily jerks. It's maybe, what comes to my mind is like 30 to 40% of hardcore gamers are jerks because they're wanting people to get on their level. They're using their competitive gaming status to say, I'm this far ahead of everyone else. I've got this far to go before I'm better than absolutely everyone on the planet, but I'm this far ahead of you, and they view gaming as a competition, which it can be. There's a huge swath of gaming that is dedicated to multiplayer competitiveness, and they should be allowed to do that. Maybe they should be, you know, taken down a peg for being a jerk, but that's who's to do that? Like, if someone says you're not able to finish Sekiro, you're just an idiot, you're a retard, then, you know, that they were being mean about it. You don't have to be friends with them, but it's not like they're committing a crime. It's not like they need to be called out for being elitists, because they'll always be elitists. You can't change a person who is a jerk to make them not a jerk without some kind of miracle. You cannot just say, hey, you're being an elitist, and then they'll suddenly become nice. And I don't see any reason for anyone to call out casuals are elitists, because they want all the games to be like the way they want them. I see no real positive message to that. I see nothing good coming of that. The same thing that I don't see anything good coming of saying that all hardcore gamers or people who like Sekiro are all elitists. That's just as wrong as saying that all casuals are elitists. Elitism is offensive, right? And it's offensive because it is infringing upon our national beliefs in America and in the general West, anywhere that has democracy or a republic. And it's saying that the people who are elites deserve better, and the people who aren't elites deserve to be shunned. That means, if it were taken to a government level, to its logical conclusion in government, then the government would be an authoritarian, totalitarian dictatorship in which those who succeed in a certain way, or those who have a certain skin color or a certain race, nationality, what have you, wealth level, are all brought up and worshipped and then everyone below that arbitrary title are shunned. And that grates against us because we are people who fight for liberty and freedom in America. That's the basis of our whole, nation, our whole country, our national heritage. And the same can be said for a lot of different nations. And so when it comes down to it, this isn't a government issue. This is not something... our freedoms are not being impinged upon by some jerk trolling and saying, "Get good, bro. You're just an idiot for not finishing that game." Like, well, he's mean. We can say that. He's an elitist. Forget him. When it comes to life, you will always come across people like this. And my tip to everyone out there having troubles with, adjusting to difficult games or games being too easy for you, get good at life and stop complaining that there are people out there that dislike you or that are being elitists. It's always going to happen. We just need to settle down, let those negative comments be sifted out, and focus on the good here. Because even though I personally find Sekiro a bit too difficult for my tastes, I may not even ever finish it, I can see that it is a marvelous game, and it is going to do some marvelous things to the gaming industry for being so popular, and for being so difficult. It has definitely brought back the era of difficulty and challenge in games, which was lost in the mid-2000s, and we are now regaining it, specifically because of games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Demon's Souls and now Sekiro. And I'm very excited for the future of gaming because of this. It's very positive. Yeah, that's basically my whole rant on the subject. We don't need to differentiate ourselves in a negative way any more than we already have. If you're not part of the hardcore group, then you don't need to complain about them. You don't need to pick fun or to attack them for being who they are. Just recognize they have a different set of values to you. And the same thing with hardcore people. You don't need to be upset just because a bunch of people are crying out that a game is too easy. The one reason why people cry out about that is maybe that it'll change gaming in a negative sense for them. For the hardcore community, it would be disastrous if games became like they were in the mid-2000s, where everything was becoming neutralized and easier and no challenge and just story-based, And a lot of people enjoyed those. Like, Call of Duty is one of, if not the most best-selling, most beloved series of games in the past, 15 years. And this is a franchise of games that I would say is definitely casual-centric, at least in the solo player arena. The other hand, though, is that these games have also been catered towards multiplayer. And in the multiplayer, people are also going hardcore about it, and elitist about that. And so we have this obvious paradox, and it's not much of a paradox that even in games such as Call of Duty, that I would say are definitely casual friendly, that they are also hardcore friendly. And that's good, that's fine. I'm not as into Call of Duty, and I don't have to be. I've made fun of Call of Duty for many years. For many years I've been saying that Call of Duty is like the McDonald's of gaming. And that's what it is to me. That doesn't mean that's what it is to everyone. And as far as I've seen, most people who have been fans of Call of Duty have been excited for the next installment. And now Black Ops is out, only online game, and as far as I know. No solo, single player, no single player game mode, only multiplayer, and people love it now. It was going to be the downfall of Call of Duty games, even worse than Infinite Warfare, I think. People didn't like that one so much, but that one was extremely popular and made millions of dollars, sold millions and millions of copies. So there's an equalizing factor here, truth here, that I think is more important than, should a game be hard or should it not be, is that games are what they are. And Call of Duty did a great job of appealing to all demographics. Not all games have to do that, but I have to respect Call of Duty for doing that and for staying relevant all of this time. So stay respectful, guys. Keep it classy. We don't have to lash out and call each other names just because we disagree with each other's values. And that's what frustrates me so much about these articles, is that they are afraid that their way of life in gaming is being changed, but what they're doing is inherently changing the online experience of video games for the negative, on both sides. Arguing that casuals are ruining gaming is a really negative and unhelpful stance to take. Same thing with the opposite. I think the fact that so many easy games were made, or at least broadly appealing games were made in the mid-2000s, is actually what sparked a lot of people to start making harder games, especially in the indie genre, like with Cuphead. The game is incredibly difficult, but it's no more difficult than the early Contra games. Anyway, so let's get it together. Let's just let this die, okay? Let's let this meme die of things being too hard or too easy. Let us just come to a middle ground and say, this game is objectively this, and this. Does it appeal to this group of people? Does it appeal to this group of people? And go from there. Judge it on what it is, not what it should be according to a certain rubric that is different than the rubric that the creator was using to create the game. You catch my drift? You see what I'm saying? I hope so, because that's the end of the video. So I hope that you've enjoyed. I hope that you get something out of this. If you have any more commentary to add to this discussion, please leave it below, and please be positive, respectful, and classy going on to the future. Until my next video, thanks for watching, and farewell.